sound of a heartbeat, slow and steady. It gradually speeds up, becoming frantic. Then, a single horrifying sound of someone trying to swallow, but choking violently, followed by a terrified gasp. It is one of history's most agonizing ways to die. It ends with a burning thirst while being terrified of water, a body convulsing in seizures while the mind is consumed by paranoia and rage. It is a death by drowning in your own saliva. And the terrifying truth is this: the verdict is delivered weeks, even months, before the sentence is carried out. The executioner is a creature no bigger than a mouse, and its verdict is 100% fatal. There are no appeals. This is the story of what happens when that executioner descends upon a town that doesn't even know it's on trial. If you're ready to learn about a real-world plague that feels like a Hollywood horror script, hit that subscribe button. The trial is now in session. Let's call our town Harmony Creek. It's a Rockwell painting come to life, nestled deep in the American Midwest. A place of wraparound porches, Legion halls, and Friday night football games. July was the town's golden hour. The air was thick and sweet with the smell of cut grass and barbecue smoke. The nights were a symphony of chirping crickets and the distant laughter of kids playing flashlight tag. Safety wasn't just a feeling here. It was an article of faith. An unspoken promise. That promise was about to be broken by a killer so small it could enter your home through a crack in a window screen. The first domino to fall was a 16-year-old boy named Kevin Hayes. Kevin was a classic small-town kid, a little awkward, unfailingly polite, saving up for his first car by bagging groceries. On a humid Tuesday night, just after sunset, he was doing the chore he hated most, hauling the overflowing kitchen trash to the cans at the edge of his backyard. The world was painted in shades of deep blue and purple. As he wrestled with the lid of the can, a sudden chaotic blur of motion dropped from the darkness above him. A frantic, papery flutter. Instinct took over. Kevin flinched back, throwing his arm up to his face. He felt a sharp electric pinch on his forearm, like a lit match being pressed against his skin for a split second. He yelped, more out of surprise than pain, and swatted at the air. He caught a glimpse of a small, dark shape, a bat, veering wildly before vanishing into the gathering night. He went inside, his adrenaline still buzzing. He showed his mom the mark. It was almost comical in its insignificance. 2 tiny red pinpricks, smaller than a freckle with no real bleeding. "A bat scratched me or something," he said, already starting to think of it as a weird story to tell his friends. His parents, caring and responsible people, looked it over. In their world, the world of Harmony Creek, a bat was like a squirrel or a robin, just part of the scenery. The idea of rabies was a historical footnote, something from old westerns. "Go wash it with soap and water," his dad advised from the living room. "You probably scared it half to death." And that was it. The incident was absorbed into the fabric of a normal summer night. And for 21 days, the microscopic killer, the bullet-shaped virus that had just jumped from the bat's saliva into Kevin's nerve endings, began its long, silent, and irreversible march toward his brain. The countdown had begun. Nobody could hear the clock ticking. A few days later, another piece of the puzzle fell into place, unseen. A woman was pruning her prize-winning rose bushes in the bright, unforgiving light of midday. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw something flopping and twitching on her perfect green lawn. It was a bat. This was deeply wrong. A bat in the daytime is like a fish on a bicycle. This one was grounded, dragging a wing, convulsing with an unnatural violence. A creature of grace and darkness, reduced to a pathetic, twitching horror in the sun. She called animal control. A bored-looking officer arrived, scooped the bat into a containment box, and sent it off to the state laboratory. Just another strange day on the job. The plague, however, was tired of hiding. It was ready to make its public debut. The stage was the Little League Championship game. The entire town of Harmony Creek was there. The smell of hot dogs, the crack of the bat, the yellow glow of the floodlights. It was the heart of the American dream. Bottom of the ninth, 2 outs, the hometown Hornets at the plate. A hush fell over the crowd. And in that hush, someone screamed. It wasn't a scream of excitement. It was a needle-sharp shriek of pure terror. A bat was circling low over the field, its flight pattern jerky and aggressive. It dive-bombed the pitcher's mound, then veered toward the bleachers. Then another appeared. And a third. Panic exploded like a firework. People were ducking, covering their kids, shouting. One of the bats, a tiny, shrieking demon, flew straight into the crowded dugout. A coach was bitten on the neck as he shielded a crying 8-year-old. Chaos reigned. The game was called. The dream was over. Harmony Creek woke up to a new reality. The lab results for the twitching bat came back. Positive for rabies. The bat from the dugout? Also positive. Fear, cold and sharp, cut through the summer haze. The town hall meeting was a powder keg. The school gymnasium was packed with terrified parents. A weary-looking epidemiologist from the State Department of Health stood at a podium and delivered the horrifying gospel of the rabies virus. She explained that it's a slow-burn killer. Once it enters the body, it hides inside nerve cells, creeping its way toward the brain, completely invisible to the body's immune system. "There is a window," she said, her voice grave. "After exposure, we can give you a series of shots, post-exposure prophylaxis. If you get it in time, you will live. It works. Every single time. But," and she paused, letting the weight of her next words sink in, "if you wait until you feel the first symptom, a headache, a fever, a tingling at the site of the bite, the virus has reached your brain. At that point, the mortality rate is not 90%, it is not 99%, it is 100%. There is no cure, there is no treatment, there is only death." A wave of audible gasps and murmurs swept through the gym. In that moment, dozens of people were replaying the last few weeks in their minds. That weird bat in the garage. The thing that brushed past my hair in the yard. A special team of wildlife biologists, disease hunters, was dispatched to Harmony Creek. They knew the source had to be a large maternity colony of bats, and that the rabies virus was burning through it like a forest fire. Their search, guided by witness reports and infrared scans, led them to the oldest, most Gothic building in town, the abandoned St. Jude's Catholic School, its windows boarded up, its belfry reaching toward the sky like a skeletal finger. Geared up in full-body hazmat suits and respirators, the team ascended into the bell tower at dusk. The scene that greeted them was apocalyptic. This wasn't a colony. It was a city. Thousands upon thousands of bats clung to every surface. A living, breathing, shrieking carpet of brown fur that seemed to writhe and flow down the ancient walls. The air was thick with the suffocating, ammonia-choked stench of guano, and dozens of them were sick, fighting, falling, twitching on the floor, the active front line of the plague. The viral bomb had been found. Meanwhile, for Kevin Hayes, the 5 weeks had erased the memory of the tiny scratch, until one afternoon at the grocery store. A headache bloomed behind his eyes, a relentless, pounding pressure. The fluorescent lights of the store felt like spotlights, painfully bright. The next morning he felt a strange pins and needles sensation in his forearm, right where the bat had touched him. The virus had completed its journey. It had breached the final defenses. It was now in his central nervous system, preparing to conquer his brain. The countdown was over. That evening the true horror began. He was desperately thirsty, but when his mother brought him a glass of water, his body revolted. As the glass neared his lips, a look of abject terror washed over his face, and the muscles in his throat seized in violent, agonizing spasms. He choked, gagging, throwing the glass away as if it were poison. It was hydrophobia, fear of water, the virus's most cruel and famous signature designed to keep saliva, its vehicle for transmission, from being washed away. His own body was now his torturer. His parents watched, helpless, as over the next 48 hours their son was systematically erased. The virus turned him into a stranger. He thrashed, he hallucinated, he lashed out in fits of terrifying paranoid aggression. This was no longer their quiet, gentle son. This was a human shell, piloted by a microscopic hijacker. In the sterile, quiet room of the hospital, the doctors could only offer sedation and comfort. They knew, the second they heard the story of the bat, that they were not there to save a life. They were there to witness an ending. Kevin Hayes died. A final heartbreaking casualty of a war that had been lost for him weeks before anyone even knew it had begun. The rabid colony was removed, and the outbreak in Harmony Creek was eventually contained. But a scar was left on the town's psyche. The sweet, carefree nights of summer were gone forever. A fluttering shadow in the corner of your eye was no longer a gentle creature of the night. It was a verdict, waiting to be delivered. The town learned a brutal lesson. The real monster isn't what you see coming. It's the one that moves in silence, in the dark, and its weapon isn't a fang or a claw. It's time. If this story has made you appreciate the thin line between a peaceful night and a perfect nightmare, hit that like button and subscribe for more true tales from the brink where science and horror collide.